Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. I'm going to be making a Tula Pink quilt today. I don't have a pattern, I'm going to kind of make it up as I go along. I'm going to be using only Tula Pink fabric. Now I recently did a video where I had a tip on using Tula Pink fabric, and that tip was to combine Tula Pink fabric with other brands of fabric. That's the way I think it can be most successfully used. The challenge, in my opinion, of using only Tula Pink fabrics is that her fabric is so bright and so vibrant that it really is difficult for my eye to digest, and so I've had more success in mixing her fabrics with other lines, with other designers, and that's what I usually do. The reason why I'm not doing that this time is A, you know I love a challenge, let's see if we can do it and make it look great. Number two, I'm making this quilt for somebody else and the person picked their fabrics, and so I'm going to be designing this quilt and making this quilt, but I didn't have a lot of say in what fabrics were going to be used. To start, let's go take a look at her fabrics. I do have kind of a vision of where I'm going here, but I have no measurements or anything. Let's take a look at the fabrics now. I'm not going to be using all of them, but I have an idea, I have some thoughts, I know where I'm going to start. Let's just give this a try. Here are the fabrics that I anticipate going in this quilt, but I do have this bin of other potential choices that I don't think I'm going to use, but even the solids are Tula Pink solids. So I could use these, but to start with, my vision is just with these. And this is the one here that I'm going to make my first cut piece out of. Let's do that. We're going to start with this beautiful flamingo print here, which I just love. The details in this are just fantastic, all the way up to that shrimp up there, which I think is beautiful. My idea is that I want to cut out a diamond here with the two flamingo in the middle. Let's go ahead and do that. Here is my cut piece. Now I think I'm going to end up cutting 9 of these, but I'm not going to do that yet because I want to make sure I like what I'm doing here. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stripe, and I've cut this stripe to be 1 1/4 inch so that it will finish a little less than an inch. And I'm going to just cut it long enough to go on both sides of the flamingo diamond here. I'm going to sew these on, and then I'll add strips to the other two sides. I will tell you the size ruler I used on this piece was a 10.5 inch ruler. Here's my block all trimmed up. Next I cut a piece of this fruit fabric, that is 10.5 by 10.5 square, and then I cut that on the diagonal into 2 pieces. And so I will attach the pieces to opposite sides. I'm going to attach each side to the body of my block. I added these 2 sides and then trimmed off the excess. Now I'll add the other 2 sides, sewing them right sides together, a 1/4 inch seam, flip it open to iron, and same with the other one. Here is my finished block. I'm going to trim this up, but I'm not looking to trim this to a specific size. What I'm going to do is I really want my cut line to end a little bit more than a 1/4 inch beyond each one of these points. So we'll see what the block size is at that point once I trim it. My trimmed block ended up being 16 3/4 inches, so just about 17 inches square. And I do like this block. I'm going to make 8 more of these, so I have a total of 9, and then we'll see what to do next. And here's just a little close-up of the fabric so that you can get a better sense of what we're working with here. There's the shrimp, the beautiful flamingos, and then the fruit. Here are my 9 quilt blocks all laid out, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out so far. Then up here you can see that I've started experimenting with kind of these shapes to put in between the quilt blocks, in between the 9 quilt blocks. Here's a close-up of kind of what I'm doing here. Let me show you the other option layout with these pieces. So as you notice, right now all of the kind of patterned pink triangles are pointing out, and I'm going to turn them around so they're pointing in, and let's take a look at that. Here it is with them pointing in, and I do like that quite a bit, but I think I like it better with kind of the diamond I guess it's not a diamond, it's whatever that shape was that it made before. I guess it was kind of a diamond. Let me turn them back around because I think I'm gonna keep it the other way, but I wanted you to see this way because it is pretty cool. And then in the middle, I have these parakeet, this parakeet print here, which I think looks nice, you know, with the solid pink next to it. All right, let me tell you how I made these little blocks here. The first thing I need to do to create this piece here is to cut out my triangles. And I will say that before I go on, I have decided to use this light purple bird fabric instead. So I'll be creating those a little differently. But I have my fabric here and I have my template. This is the Quick Sense Wonder Triangles. And I'm lining it up on the 5 mark. So that would be 5 inches finished. From here to the line is 5.5 inches. But I just put that line right against the bottom of my fabric. And I'm trying to center this diamond within the tip of the triangle and cut it out. And there we have, oh, missed a little piece. There we have our triangle. So I'm creating just a bunch of these. Let's see, how many do I need for my quilt? I need 24 of these for my quilt. So I'm gonna cut 24 out and then I'll show you the next step. Next, I cut a 1-inch strip of my black and white striped fabric and I sewed it to one side of my triangle, and then I trimmed it. Oh, this one I sewed to, oh no, here we go. I trimmed it. Then you're gonna take another strip, sew it to the other side, so right sides together, 1/4 of an inch, flip, iron it open, and trim the other side. So you'll have this block here, which happens to measure the same as this full template here. Now this template came with this wing. So let's see, this is the Wonder, and I put a little bit of double-sided tape on the back just to keep it from slipping around, but this is the Wonder Triangles Quilt Sense. And so this piece goes on the other side here. So we'll do that next. But I made 24 of these pieces. And I'm really happy with them. I love how this big triangle is centered with these little triangles underneath it. I think that's really, really cool and kind of modern. And so what I want to do is cut a piece of background. And I did go back to this pink. I had thought for a little while about using that kind of purple decorative fabric, but I'm going to use the solid pink. So I cut out a triangle to go on the left side and then another triangle to go on the right side by just flipping the template over. I will sew this side on first, 1/4 inch seam, flip it open, iron, and then I'll attach the other side. And I will end up with this square here. And this square should measure, let's see, about 6.5 inches. This long strip here is what I'm ultimately trying to create to go along the sides of these flamingo blocks here. So then the parakeet block will go in the corner down here like this. So we've made these pieces here. So this one would go here and this one would go here. We need to make the inside piece, this diamond. What I did for these is I fussy cut this pink out of the pink fabric, the diamond, which is a 2.5 inch square, but I'm making it diamond instead of square. It's going to be diamond. Then more of these 1-inch strips of the black and white stripe. I put them on each side to create this piece. Then I cut a 5-inch square and then I cut it on the diagonal. If you do that twice, you should have 4 pieces. So I attached 2 of my triangles onto each side. So 1/4 inch and flip, same with this one, 1/4 inch and flip, and you will have this piece here. You want to trim a straight line right along the edge of your black and white strip on both the right side and the left side. Now I will take my other 2 triangles. Again, sew them 1/4 inch and flip, 1/4 inch and flip, and then you end up with this square. I want to trim this square down because, as you can see from this long piece, this is a rectangle, not a square. So I want this to be 4.5 inches long by 6.5 inches wide. And so when I trim it down, I get this. And once you have your 4.5 inch by 6.5 inch diamond, you can then sew them to the other 2 pieces. Flip this over, right sides together, 1/4 inch and flip. Same with this one. Right sides together, 1/4 inch and flip, and you'll have this piece here. And here is the finished quilt. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, you just skipped over how to make this entire thing, but I'm going to tell you real quick right now. So I think the only thing about kind of this general middle part, these nine blocks that I consider the center that I didn't mention, are these polka dot centers here, because we talked about how to make these strips. We talked about how to make the flamingo square blocks and then these strips, but we didn't talk about these. Now, in the videos earlier, these were bird fabric. They were what is that up there I was thinking was going to be these middles, but I ended up not caring for that, so I did put the polka dots, which I think are a lot better, and still Tula Pink fabric. Those are 6 inch finished, 6.5 inches unfinished. So once you have these polka dot blocks here, you can really connect all of these other strips that you've made and blocks together to create your center. Now the purple border, the dark purple inner border is it finishes at 1 inch. The dark purple over there is 4 inches finished. Let's take a closer look here. So this strip up here is 7 inches, and what I did to create that is I attached, let's see if I can get a corner here. So I attached a purple to the bird and then a purple to the bird. So I bookended this bird with the 2 dark purples, and then I attached that full piece to my main piece. I did the same for the bottom. Then once I had that attached, I just added a strip along the side all the way to the bottom. And you see I did the same there. When I say all the way to the bottom, I don't mean the full bottom, but I connected it with that other purple strip. So that's how I created that, and then obviously I just did a border. The other thing I wanted to say about this quilt is I did not solely end up using Tula Pink fabric. This black and white stripe is not Tula Pink. Though I will say that Tula does have a black and white stripe, but I think her stripe is a little bit thicker. It's more of a stripe like this one here. I think the black and white really helps to calm it down a little bit, which is what I was trying to do. As I mentioned, the Tula Pink is just so bright, and I think that black and white combined with the solids that I used really makes it a little bit more cohesive so you can see what's going on. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I have a ton of leftover pieces from this because I was doing so much experimenting and making these blocks and trying things out and changing my mind that I've decided to make a little mini quilt, and I have laid out some of those blocks that I took a picture of. So at the end of this video, I'll show you those little mini blocks, and then I'll show you a couple pictures of this quilt so that you can get a better look. But thanks so much for joining me. I hope you like the quilt. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye. And I forgot to mention that in terms of the quilting, I just did stitch in the ditch for the whole thing. So every single seam that you see is stitched in the ditch for the quilting, and that really, in my opinion, allows this to pop. You could, the fabrics to really pop. You could do some really cool things within the solids for the quilting, but I just didn't quite have enough time. And you know, I do love stitch in the ditch. It's easy. I do it on the domestic machine. I can do it myself. So anyway, thanks, subscribe, see you next time.